Is Tai Lopez around? Does anybody see him? Oh, there he is. Oh, I was about to talk more crap about him. All right, I'll tell you what. Let's just stand up and put your hands together. Show some love for Taino Lopez.
I like that. That's my full name. Hey, Zach.
Your leader.
Zach dressed up for today.
I didn't know. I dressed up in my drinking and getting high outfit.
How's everybody doing? You guys cold? All right. Well, you guys can sit down. You don't have to head up. All right. Well, looks like it's a good thing we put the tent on. Although I don't think it's not going to rain, I don't think. It's sprinkling? Okay. Cool. All right, we got a lot to cover. Hopefully you guys are doing okay food-wise. How come some of you sitting over there should probably sit over there. You got a better eye line, but whatever. If you want to switch. So let me start with a couple things. I'm not going to do a super. I'll talk more after you guys eat, because I don't want you guys to be starving and trying to listen. I was talking to my team about a month ago, and I was like, I like to have like one focus for the year. Have you guys read the book, The One Thing? Yeah. Anybody? Gary Keller? So it's always good to have kind of one goal per 12-month cycle or 18-month cycle. You really should not think in years. Years is random calendar. You should think in like 18-month cycles. That's what Peter Drucker teaches. So 18 months from now, you should have some 18-month goal, and you should also have a 67-day goal. Those are the two. There's science behind both of those. I won't go into the science, but. So what should the 18-month goal be for everybody? Anybody want to shout it out? What's an 18-month goal? Like an overarching principle. That's just a few words. Love life. Okay. Inner circle. Disability? That's an interesting goal. What did you say? Oh, financial stability. Yeah, that's better than disability. I thought you said disability. Sleep better? Okay. Here's one that I kind of picked for my whole company and for myself. Just results. And it's just one word, but it's one of those words that's like very, people go, oh yeah, I already know that. But if you really think deeply on that, it's a more complex word than first appearance. So for example, when I was about 20, I had 5 kind of mentors before age 25 that really helped me, especially financially, but also in life in general. One of them was Joel Salatin. Some of you might have heard of him. He's a farmer/entrepreneur, author. And then I had his mentor was a guy named Alan Nation. That's the guy who taught me how to read. Alan Nation would read a book a day. It was the first time I really realized how much you could take in and benefit from. So I was at breakfast one morning on a farm, and Alan Nation came down, and he goes, man, that was a good book. And it was like 7 in the morning. I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, yeah, I read my book for the day. And I said, it's 7 in the morning. He's like, yeah, I wake up around 6 and I read a book in an hour. He was a faster reader than average. He was an extra smart person. But that was the first time, like a lot of stuff in life you won't realize you can do if you don't see someone else do it first. That's how humans work. One of the results that I'd like you guys to get from being here is just to see that it's actually happening. Because there's a lot of talk in the world about entrepreneurship, growing your business, scaling your business. And if you don't see it, you can't believe it. And I was talking to Alex Mayer. He spoke earlier, one of my business partners. And I told him like 2 months ago, we're going to launch 200 businesses a year. And so we've been doing like 4 a week. And then we cull them down to the top 12 per year. And we cut the rest. We either sell them or ditch the rest. And I told him this one business we launched, I said, this thing, trust me on this. It was what, 2 months ago, I said, we need to launch this business. It's going to make a lot of money. And then yesterday it made like 100 grand a day. It's like making $100,000 a day with zero expenses. And so once you see it, now Alex, so here's how you get results. I'm just going to diagram this out. So basically, you see someone else do it, okay? And then you buy in. And a lot of times people skip this middle step, and I can tell you why. It's taken me my whole life to figure this out. And I ran across some top psychologists and some top scientific studies on this. It's called self-sufficiency narcissism. Everybody knows narcissism. You've heard of it. But people don't realize that clinically there's 7 forms of narcissism. So most people, what do you think of when you think of narcissism? Think of somebody who looks in the mirror and goes, damn, I look good today, right? That's only one form. That's called vanity. So you have superiority, authority, exhibitionism, self-sufficiency, exploitativeness, and vanity. I think that was 7. Those are the 7 forms. Now, most entrepreneurs here, I'm assuming, you don't stare at the mirror all the time. Probably a few of you do, but your most likely weakness that's keeping you from getting results is self-sufficiency narcissism. So when I first started, really in like 2011, 2012, what you guys, building my personal brand, I was an entrepreneur since I was 19, but I didn't do it as a personal brand. In 2011, 12, I started doing this personal brand, and I was like, I'm going to talk about how I like books. Surely nobody will have shit to talk about that. Well, sure enough, about 20% of people who see my stuff is like, you don't need to read books, you don't need mentors, just go out and do it. Well, you should rejoice when you see that, because those are your competitors that have fallen prey to a psychological cognitive bias called self-sufficiency narcissism, which is a clinical psychological ailment. So if you're ever like, yesterday I was training with, I train with these guys that are a lot better than me. One of them, he's ranked, I think, #2 kickboxer, #1 in the world, Muay Thai guy. And he's fighting on Dana White's show next month. And if he wins, then he gets 4 fights in the UFC. And we were looking at his competitor. So he showed me a video doing competitive intelligence last night. And he was like, right away, his name's Giga. I was like, Giga, this guy has major problems. You got a great chance against him. And he was like, yep. So for all of you, when you run into people that are like, I don't need books, I don't need mentors, you're like, yes, I'm fighting against a handicapped entrepreneur. Okay? No offense, I don't mean it making fun of handicap. I'm just saying. It's like fighting with one person that got their arm tied behind their back. You're going to beat them. So results, back in when I was about 20 years old, when I met my second mentor, Alan Nation. He walked down the stairs. He goes, I read my book for the day. All of a sudden, I bought in. And see, the things that are going to get you results in this year, we can kind of divide them into 2 quadrants here. These are the results quadrants, if you want to write this down. So one of them is what you know, and that's what Joe Soto and Alex was doing here. Some of you are strong on what you know. You know Facebook ads, you understand funnels, you understand entrepreneurship, scaling, all that stuff. But what goes in this quadrant? Who? Your network. Your net worth is your network. You ever heard that? Or your income and net worth is the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around. I can tell you, I've heard that cliche for many years, and it is very true. Okay? And I'm going to talk about that later because it's a catch-22. You really should be hanging out with people who here, this is a kind of scary self-audit that I'm going to show you guys how to all do. And you should do this once a week. Who here spent 40 hours last week with somebody who's 20 years ahead of where you want to be in business? Their results, like you want to in 20 years be making 10 million bucks a year, they're doing it. Who spent 40 hours in person with that person? 2. Okay. Who spent 0 hours with somebody 20? Who spent less than 3 last? In person. We'll just talk about in person for now. Let's start with in person. It's got to be more. So the majority of people here, we're missing out on the who, And I'm telling you, I give you the simplest formula for results. It's see someone else, mentally buy in, and then you'll figure out the what. People always come to me with the what. They're like, Tai, what do you do that allows you to make, $50 million or more a year in business? And I'm like, sometimes I'm like, should I sit people down and be like, I've done it before. I've tried many things since 2011 to try to get people results. I've sat down with them. I've done one-on-one consulting. I've done seminars like this. I've done YouTube. My YouTube videos just passed 1.4 billion minutes watched yesterday. 1.47 billion. So with Facebook, it's at over 2 billion minutes watched. It's the most in history for business. And that I think it's the most. But it doesn't always get results. So what I'm giving you now is like my most updated formula. This I haven't really talked about. You can search for my YouTube. This is like the most recent thing on my mind in 2018. It's basically been this year. So the reason that I haven't been doing seminars, I did a mastermind in 2015. I took 60 people. I said, you can come to my house 4 times a year. And I'm going to charge you $25,000 to $50,000. And I just did an experiment. And I said, I'm not going to do it again for a long time. So 60 people signed up. And I gave them a contract. And the contract signed by me in the name of my company. So it's backed by my company. It said, if you invest 25 in this, if you don't make an extra double in your business income, I'll give you your money back. For the people who put in 50 grand, if they don't make an extra 100,000, I'll give them their money back. And out of 60 people, 3 people asked for a refund. One of them got cancer the day after they signed the contract or the week after. They never showed up, so we gave him the money back just out of humanitarian. I mean, I felt bad. The guy had terminal cancer. And I forget the other 2. Did we give 2 people refunds, or one of them changed their mind and liked it eventually? So it got results. It got results. But then I stopped doing it because I like to travel. Main reason, I'm going to talk later about figuring out your motivations to get, I call it the 4 M's. It's a system that I'm trademarking and copyright, not patenting, but trademarking this concept of the 4 M's. And my main M is momentum freedom. So all I care about as an entrepreneur, I honestly don't care if I make 100 million. This year I'm de-optimizing my revenue. I'm actually purposely trying to make less money because it's been taken away from my freedom. And I care more about freedom than money. I'd rather make $1 million a year and have unlimited freedom than I know guys making $1 billion a year that are miserable. So, but I've been thinking back to 2015. I still like the results that we got. Usually if people put in 25 to 50 grand and you give them a contract saying you want refunds, most people are going to be like, oh, my lawyers are like, you cannot do this. You're going to get 50% of people cheat you at the end of the year, be like, oh, I want my money back. But like I said, really only 1 or 2 asked for their money back. And there were people we couldn't help. They were too complicated personalities. They were their own worst enemy, and sometimes you can't help everybody. That's what I'm going to tell you right now. And some of you trying to help people right now, just give up. Alan Nation used to tell me, Tai, don't try to teach pigs to fly. You can't do it, and it bothers the pig. They get mad at you. So some of you trying to teach pigs to fly. A couple of people, not that they were pigs, but you know what I'm saying. So one of the things that this is divided up here, this day that you're spending here, is kind of like that mastermind that I did 2 or 3 years ago, where you're around people. So during the breaks, go and talk to people. I can't tell you the jumps in my income that have come from the who. Definitely more than the what, because you can hire people to do the what. You can hire people to build your Facebook funnels. You can hire customer support, outsource the team. You can outsource programming. But who you know. I had a guy here 2 days ago who now he made so much money he just travels around the world doing sting operations. It's crazy. He there's human slavery is this big thing. So this guy owns an $11 billion hedge fund, okay? And sorry, real estate fund. It's one of the biggest funds in the world. And I did a talk a few months ago, and he paid, how much did he pay? $28,000 to have lunch with me. It was a charity auction. I was like, damn, Warren Buffett gets $2.4 million for a lunch, and I get $28,000. If you ever want to be humbled, compare yourself to Warren Buffett. So I'm not even 1,000th of the worth of Warren Buffett. I'd pay $2.4 million to have lunch with Buffett. So he came over here 2 days ago, and once again, this story, I said, how did you figure out to start from nothing and have an $11 billion fund? He has so much money. He has his private jet. He hired a whole bunch of Navy SEAls. They travel around the world. They go in where there's like human trafficking of children for organs in Haiti, for example. They dress up as like people buying it, and he's like a modern day Batman. Seriously. Which I've always said. I saw my favorite tweet ever was like, all these millionaires and billionaires in the world, but nobody's trying to be Batman. And then I met the guy yesterday. His name was Paul Hutchinson. You can Google him. And I asked him his story, though, because he went from nothing to $11 billion. If you have $11 billion real estate fund, trust me, you're making a lot of money. A lot. They get 20% of the profit on $11 billion. They own some of the biggest apartment. You guys know Grant Cardone does apartments. So this guy, like Grant does a couple $100 million in real estate. This guy does $11 billion in apartments. This is like next level guy. But I asked him, what's his secret? He goes, you know what? I don't know how to invest in real estate. In fact, I actually don't know much about real estate because I was asking him for advice. He goes, but I know one thing. I know how to network with people. And he goes, the reason I flew out here partly is to have this lunch with you, but every 6 months I have lunch with the Marriott family. And he said, every fund that I launch, the Marriott family puts $300 million in without asking me any questions because he launches new funds. It's not what you know always. He doesn't know real estate. He said he had like a $100 million fund. He was doing real estate. And a guy who used to run Citibank in Asia came to him and he's like, dude, you don't know real estate. Hire me as the CEO and just go out and network. And he said, okay. And he said that was the day when he went from 100 million into the billions. So a lot of you, your weakness, some of you, who thinks your weakness is what you know? Raise your hand. Honestly, there's no right or, I'm not going to call anybody out. Only 4 people? What you know. You don't know enough about the products and marketing and stuff. Okay, who feels like their network isn't like Paul Hutchinson's? Yeah. It is a big one. And I tested this in 2015, and sure enough, I had this mastermind. It was crazy. One of the first guys came in, and he's like, I have a helicopter business where we do irrigation and, not irrigation, they spray stuff. And he's like, I've been trying to grow my business. And I said, well, you just need to know people. He's like, how do I sell? I'm like, you just need to know the right people. And sure enough, he met another person in the mastermind who introduced him to somebody, and he did a $1.2 million deal that month with no work. It was just an introduction. So make the time during this thing here to expand your social circle. You should go home with a couple phone numbers. Don't get emails, by the way. A little practical tip. Emails is so 2004. Okay? This is 2018. Text people. Do not email. I don't even have anybody's email. If you try to email, my Gmail has, 2.3 million unread email addresses. So if all you guys trying to email me, no. If you get my phone number, that's a better chance. So see someone else do it, buy in. My second mentor, I saw him reading a book a day. I bought in. 2001, I was trying to figure out, I had lived at the Amish on a farm for 10 years. So I come back, and I'm trying to make money. That's when I had $47. I was living in a mobile home. My uncle said, Tai, you need to get out of the house, and you need to meet more people. So I went through the phone book, yellow pages, randomly stopped on a full-page ad of this guy, Mike Steinbach, called his office, made an appointment, pretended I needed financial planning help, because he was a financial planner. And I showed up, and I'm like, Mike, you don't owe me. I'm not really here to do financial planning because I only have $47. But I said, but I can tell, my uncle told me it cost $40,000 to have a full-page, yellow page ad. You got money. I've never been around anybody who had money. Up to that point, even Joel Salatin and them, now Joel Salatin's a millionaire, but he wasn't. And I grew up, I did a video a long time ago of, you can see the house that I grew up with in California. It's smaller than my master bedroom now, the whole house. I wasn't dirt poor, but you never heard the saying, you didn't know you didn't have much money? My mom made 20 grand a year. Then she got married. I remember she got married to my stepdad, and she was like, we are going up in the world. And he worked at the post office delivering mail, and I remember he made $42,000, and my mom was like, I married up, Tai. And I was like, yes. My mom used to say, you have $100 for Christmas every year. I remember that growing up. And when she got married to this guy, John, he's like, we're going up to 200. And I was like, whoo, doubled it. And I got one pair of shoes a year. And but I couldn't buy in to the thought of making money. So 2001, my mom's here, by the way. If anyone, raise your hand, Mom. Mom, I didn't even tell you. I went back to the house in San Diego. Do you know how small that house was? Oh, I'm over here. You can look at the one where Christopher was born.
Oh.
It's teeny. It's insane.
Yes.
But it looked big when I was 8 or whatever. Anyway, so now I'm in my early...
3 bedrooms.
Yeah, three bedrooms like this. But I couldn't buy it. So 2001, I bought this online pro. So this Mike Steinbeck guy, back to this guy I found in the Yellow Pages, he says to me, Tai, you don't know me. I mean, I said, Mike, you don't know me, but I'll work for you for free if you teach me what you know. And he goes, he was sitting in this chair. He looked like Tom Selleck. He had a big mustache. Some people said he looked like, what was the other? Rick worked with him. What was the other guy? Saddam Hussein, he also looked like with his. He preferred to be called Tom Selleck, not Saddam Hussein. And he just turned his chair. He's sitting there and he goes, you know, I've been looking for a guy like you for 20 years. Come in the morning. I'm going to show you how to make money. And I was like, woo! And I went home and I couldn't afford a suit because he was like, you got to dress better. I forget what I was wearing. But I found a Salvation Army suit, and it was insane. It had shoulder pads. I found a picture of it. Herman has it. For those of you who know Dr. Fresco, he like blackmails me. He's like, I'm gonna post this on my Instagram. And I showed up, and he gave me this office. It wasn't really an office. It was a closet with no windows. He pulled 2 filing cabinets out, and he rolled a chair in there with a desk, and it was so small that I couldn't pull mine. It was like an airline seat. It was like, went back that far. And he gave me a list of cold calls. He said, start calling this. This is how you make money. He told me, Tai, if you ain't afraid of the phone, you'll always have money in your bank account. That's, by the way, what I told Alex 2 months ago when we launched this Boost sales floor company that did 100 grand or whatever yesterday. And so, but I was still not bought in completely. But I found a course online by Corey Rudel. Who here remembers Corey Rudel? Mike does. Both me and Mike, for those of you who know Mike Long, who I think he's talking, or maybe already talked, I bought this course. It was all the money I had. It was like, by then I'd saved up a little money working for Mike, $500 or $1,000. I spent it all. I get this 3-ring binder in the mail. There was before videos, really. And I go through it, and I don't remember anything from it except see someone else. It was a video of a guy, or a picture of a guy, Corey Rudel, who said he had made $28,000 that day while laying on the beach in Hawaii. And I was like, this is probably a scam, but I gotta be, see, you gotta be open-minded. Most people thought it was a scam. Turned out, I researched the guy. I never met him in person. He died in a car crash in 2008. He bought too many fancy cars, drove a Porsche into a side of a cliff in San Diego. That's why I always drive a little slower than people think in all these cars. I'm like, I don't want to have this Corey Rudel thing. But I saw, like, I bought in, and I went in 9 months to making 6 figures. That to me was a lot, because no one in our family had ever made 6 figures, or friends or anything like that. So it was who I met. That was virtually. This Corey Rudel guy, I got results because I saw someone else and I bought in. I remember the day I bought in. I just was like, yeah, I think this is real. And when you buy in, then the what came. I figured out Instagram. Google AdWords. I was one of the first people to use Google AdWords. I made a website called lifeinsurancetricks.com. It was a long page. It was about 7,000 words. Back, most marketing is too short. Little practical tip. Most of you have videos on your website. You have 2 paragraphs. No, this Corey Rudel guy was like, you need long copy. So I wrote 8,000 words on how to buy life insurance. 12 secrets to buying life insurance. And it was good. It was actually informative. And at the very bottom, it said, if you want me to help you, I'm licensed in 50 states, I'll help you. And leads started pouring in to the point that the CEO, I worked for GE at the time, which was the largest company in the world, GE Financial. The CEO of GE Financial, John McGilchrist, called me. He goes, Tai, are you doing something illegal? I'm like, why? He goes, today you submitted, this week, $70,000 in commissions to be owed to you. He said the average person that's been with us for years is submitting like $8,000 a month. And I didn't want to tell them what I was doing because I thought they would steal my ideas online. So I was like, just trust me, it's completely legal. And sure enough, I went to 6 figures in 9 months, and then I scaled up, I forget, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year. Now, what was the next big breakthrough? No one told me this, and this is a sad thing, because between 2001 and 2008, I went up in income. I've gone up in income, I think, every year since 2001 to today. I've always gone up. But the increments weren't huge. Probably went from, 100 grand to 120 or 150, something like that. So by 2008, I was probably making, I don't know if I was making quite $1 million a year, but it might be $1 million a year. I was sitting at a dinner, kind of like this. It was a conference kind of thing. And a guy looks at me and goes, there's a new thing out, Facebook ads. You should try it. And I remembered back in 2001, last time I listened to somebody, it kind of worked. So I went home. I was living on Hollywood and Vine here in Hollywood. I built some Facebook ads, did not know what I was doing. I remember I had a date, and I went to sushi. And I came back, and I made $17,000 profit in 2 hours. And I was like, I told that girl, you are good luck. We should go on dates every day. And so it was a who event, and I bought in. I wasn't that skilled. And that's why one of the things I want you guys to take away is a lot of you are really heavily focused on the what, which is important. Don't get me wrong. Having Facebook ads skill and this skill. But that was a who event. Who I bumped into, 2008. 2014, almost 7-year increment, 6-7 years later. I'm at another conference like this, dinner. And by the way, the reason I started going out more, in 2008, I bumped into this guy named Ryan, who's one of the best internet guys you'll ever meet, but he will never come speak at one of these. He's the most secretive guy. He makes about $6 million a month net. He's a king. People think I'm the best marketer in the world. I'm like, no. This guy is 10 times better than me. In 2008, he's the one who told me, he said, Tom, an introvert, you got to get out more. You got to get out more. An introvert was telling me, an extrovert, I got to get out more. And so, but I had this self-sufficiency bias, because this is what's taught in entrepreneurship. Hustle, grind, work harder, and you'll make more money. Who here works hard? Who here works twice as hard and automatically makes twice as much money? One person out of everybody. It doesn't work that way. And for those of you who want real science on this, there's a book by Jim Collins. You guys know Jim Collins? He's considered the best living business teacher right now. He wrote Good to Great and all these. He has the science where he studied the top entrepreneurs going back to 1950s. What made IBM, Bill Gates, all these things. What were the big events where their income went up or their revenue went up? He said it was who events. He thought he would find what events. Like somebody found how to use Facebook ads, and that's what made them more money. It was who. Bill Gates ran into Steve Ballmer. I had lunch with Steve Ballmer. I'm like, what's the most important thing that ever happened to you? He's like, I was at Harvard, and somebody said, you got number 2 in the United States in math. You want to meet the kid who did number 1? And Steve Ballmer's like, okay. And he not waddles, he's not fat, but he goes over there, and someone's like, here's a 19 or 20-year-old Bill Gates. And they shook hands and became best friends. And he's worth $32 billion today. It's a who event. You guys don't have enough who events. That's I guess this is a long-winded way. I got to increase over the next 18 months the amount of who events that you have. Everything else out there is important, but not as important. 2014, I'm still remembering what Ryan told me in 2007. Get out more. I went to a dinner, and I don't even remember the person who told me this. It was like a big group of business guys, and one guy said, Tai, you know what? I think you'd be good on video. You should make a YouTube channel. I had no YouTube channel. I had an Instagram that had, 3,000 followers or something, and it was all pictures. I didn't know about video back then. And I resisted. This was like August 2014. I didn't instantly buy in. You know why I didn't buy in? Because he wasn't doing it. Does that make sense? So it's harder to buy in when someone tells you, but you don't see them doing it. People are like, Tai, why do you post Lamborghinis and Ferraris? Trust me, it's not to show off. I got my first Ferrari in 2008. I never posted a picture of it for 7 years. Okay? You can go back on my Facebook. I posted one picture, I think, in 2009. If I was the last guy on the planet, I'd go straight to a Lamborghini dealership, like Will Smith in that one movie. What's that movie? I Am Legend. I'd be like, oh, he got a Mustang. I'm like, no. I like Mustangs. You get a Lamborghini. So I didn't know about video in 2014. I'm sitting at this dinner. The guy's like, dude, do YouTube. I didn't buy in because he wasn't doing it. But I remember back 2001, it worked for me. 2008, I learned about Facebook. 2001, I learned about Google from somebody. I'm going to buy in. So I was in, it was December 2014, and I started making videos. It's still up on my YouTube. It's me and my childhood friend, Jeremy, driving around a Lamborghini. And it's funny, I had him wear the sound equipment because there's only room for 2 people. So he has a headset on. So when I released this video, it kind of backfired on me because everybody's like, look at Tai talking to his friend who's so bored he put a headset on. So everybody thinks, they don't realize it's my voice going. They thought he was like listening to Spotify. So this video did not work out as well as I thought. But the first one's not as good. But I went to Europe for me and Zach in 2014, New Year's Eve. I'm in Paris. This is like a day or 2 before this shooting, that first big shooting in Paris. And like a day before, Nathan had called me and he goes, Tai, I have another house in Hollywood. He goes, dude, we got too many books. You just got to order. Because I go on these little binges. I go on Amazon and order like $400 worth of books. I'm like, dude, add to cart. So my assistant there is like trying to get ready for Christmas, and they're like boxes pouring in. And I had put libraries in every little room I could. And I said, dude, just buy a whole bunch of bookshelves and stick them in my garage. So when I come back about January 14th, there's all these books and bookshelves in my garage. And I had bought a Lamborghini. I got one for Halloween. I wanted to be Batman in 2014. That's why I got that black Lamborghini. And so I was sitting, and here's another Who event. I don't know if I've told you this, Alex. I was friends with Alex. We weren't in business. And he had come down, I don't know, sometime a month before, and I had been like, let's go to a club. And Alex was like, I don't think you remember saying this. He was like typing. Alex gets very into making money. And Alex was like, recreation is overrated. That's what he said. This is the only words. This is like recreation. So he like shamed me that day. So a month later, I'm back from Paris. I'm at the house. Nathan, I look in the garage. There's books in there. And I wish I had this screenshot. I had planned to go to a club. It was a Sunday. I think it was January 21st, somewhere around then, 2015. And I planned to go to a club, and Who event, somebody's words in my ear was like, Tai, just, recreation's overrated. So I texted everybody, I'm going to stay in. And I remember I had a phone. It wasn't this one. I kept the phone. It's in there. It's the same phone. And I just grabbed it, and I remember thinking, I'm going to see if I can make some money today. And the guy about the YouTube thing from 5 months before was in my head. I should try YouTube. So I went in my garage, and I literally just grabbed the phone, and I was like, what should I talk about? And I understood the 25 cognitive biases. It's actually a more sophisticated video than people realize. Who's here seen the Who Here in My Garage video? So I just recorded here in my garage, just got this new Lamborghini. We launched it 5 days later in, I think it was January 26th or something. And I was actually doing a conference. And my marketing guy, while I'm on stage, he's in the back laughing. And I'm like, what is he laughing? I'm not even telling jokes on stage. This guy's laughing. Maybe I thought like my zipper was down, something like that. So I go at the break to him, and he's like, dude, we made $100,000 today. And he goes, I think we're going to make $150,000 today, and we'll spend 50. And I was like, well, damn, that video worked. And that was the beginning of YouTube for me. And it was, but I can't take credit. It wasn't my genius. I didn't sit in a room and you know, just go, oh, I should do YouTube. I wasn't even reading. Somebody told me. And I can't remember the person. I can't give them credit. You guys need, so I've given you 3 luck events that happened after my mentors. 2001 was an online luck event. Bumped into Corey Rudel. I often think, what happens if I hadn't looked at that banner ad? It was a banner ad. It wasn't even a video ad. Probably the whole sequence of events up to now wouldn't have happened. What if I hadn't done Facebook ads in 2008? Because I saw my income. That's when I figured out that you can make 7 to 8 figures relatively easy. And then 2015, if you start making 100 grand a day, it'll change your life. And every person here, if you came here and you're like, what's this boot camp? Who's been on the calls that we did for a couple months? Those are all good. We did a lot of what stuff, but the reason I included an event, what I thought was important, back to 2015, you guys got to meet more people. And somebody in this room, I promise you, some little thing they know, they might be making less money than you. Some person in this room knows some little key to something. It might be an introduction to another person. It might be a mental framework, like recreation is overrated. It might be a new marketing avenue. And that's when you 10x your revenue and your income. Does that make sense? Now, we're going to break here in a couple minutes. Are you guys dying here? You guys okay? We're going to break, though, because we got good food for you. We got Will Smith's former chef cooking for you guys. I met Will Smith once, and I was like, I stole your chef. He's like, I love Sean. Tell him hello. Will Smith is a nice guy in person. So I've given you the good news, kind of like a guideline. You guys got to get out more. You got to kill the self-sufficiency narcissism. It's a clinically diagnosed psychological ailment, by the way. So when you see people being like, you don't need to read, just do it. Be like, you have a clinically, like a psychologist would be sitting on a couch like, okay. Diagnosis, whatever they get, lithium, here we go. But entrepreneurs pride themselves on psychological ailments. I mean, people are like, oh, yeah, I did it on my own. I'm like, no, you didn't. Jay-Z at 12 years old ran into a teacher named Leor something who said, you're a good poet. You should learn how to put words together and rhyme. What's Jay-Z's current net worth? Near $1 billion. You can ask Jay-Z. He's got an interview. He's like, what changed your life? Oh, this one teacher. I was in the ghetto. He said, all my best friends are dead by 18 years old. But she told me, you're good at lyrics, not lyrics, poetry and writing words. Oprah Winfrey made $3,000 a year as a newscaster. She got the job. She called down to her house in Alabama or Arkansas, or one of these southern places. Her dad, they jumped for joy. She said that was the most anyone in our family had ever made for 200 years being in the United States. And her dad said to her, I don't think you can ever make more than this. $3,000 a month. But she ran into a financial advisor who said, you know what? You should make your own production company and stop working for, news companies where you're an employee. And she made a leap, and she's the first, I think, self-made female billionaire in America or in the world. Who event? That's a lot. Albert Einstein. Anybody here smarter than Albert Einstein? He says maybe. These are Tesla was, I'll tell you a story about Tesla then. Albert Einstein, every Thursday, said the biggest thing that changed his life, he had lunch with a mathematician and his family every Thursday who took his math to a super advanced level at age 16, 17 years old. You brought up Tesla. I researched Tesla because I like to research because the myth of the self-made entrepreneur, I'm out to expose as a myth. Tesla, read about Tesla. He had this professor that took him under his wing and showed him most of the math that he ended up doing to become one of the greatest, pioneers of his time. Name anybody. I've gone through, there's almost nobody that I can't. Mark Zuckerberg's life was True story, playing basketball right here. Some of you saw this on my Snapchat. You guys know, remember MySpace? 2005, 2006, MySpace, #1 traffic site in the world, beyond Google. So Tom is a friend of mine. You remember Tom from MySpace, the founder of MySpace? Your first friend online, that little picture? Well, I become friends with him. I met him at a party. This is a Who event here in Hollywood. We became friends. He told me a story, and it's a YouTube. I have a YouTube video. He said, "You're the only person I've ever told this." He said, 2005, 2006, 10 to 30% of all internet traffic is going through my website. I'm on top of the world. He's sold for $550 million. He hasn't worked a day since 2007. Some people think Tom failed. I'm like, if that's failure, everybody here should fail like Tom. Sell your company for a measly $550 million. But he told me, I said, what do you think happened with Facebook? He's like, well, because Facebook obviously surpassed MySpace and killed MySpace. He goes, I think I made a mistake. I said, why? He said, well, 2 things he told me. I was too self-sufficient. I thought I had all the answers. And this Mark Zuckerberg kid tried anything that anybody said and tested everything. I said, really? How do you know? He goes, well, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but I will. In 2006 or 7, I'm at a conference. I'm speaking and Mark Zuckerberg's speaking. I'm the king of the internet. #1 site in the world. Mark Zuckerberg comes up to me after and goes, hey, I don't know if you know who I am. And Tom goes, oh, I know who you are. You're the Facebook kid. And Mark Zuckerberg goes, why is MySpace so sexy and Facebook is so, no one wants to use it? He goes, Tom said, I made a mistake. I turned to him and I said, dude, easy. You only allow 1 photo on Facebook. We have photo albums so people can upload lots of pictures. He said within 1 week, Facebook had photo albums. And he said if you trace from the day I had that conversation, that general time is when Facebook, MySpace, Facebook. It's a luck event that Mark Zuckerberg had. And Mark Zuckerberg was open to it. And he was listening. The President of the United States has 15 cabinet members. How many cabinet members do you have? The most powerful conqueror in history, Alexander the Great, by the age 31, 32, he conquered the whole known world. You know an advantage he had? At 16 years old, his dad, Philip of Macedon, hired a mentor for him. And who do you think he hired? Aristotle. How'd you like to grow up and be like, yeah, Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, these are my mentors. And it gave him, and Alexander the Great, before every conquering battle, every battle he went, he would send his library ahead, so he had all his books there when he landed, so he could study. So he wasn't self-sufficient. So a lot of you, if I had to come in and diagnose one-on-one, I do one-on-one consulting for $1 million a year, $500,000 to $1 million a year. But I could save you guys money right now. Main thing, I would come in and root out the self-sufficiency. Now, not all of you have it. I would say 80% of you do. Some of you are great on this, but you still don't have the network. We've got to expand your network. Now, this is what I'm going to say. Here's the bad news. I gave you the good news because I gave you the formula. You increase your network, you increase your net worth. You get more who events, lucky events, a meeting, bumping into the right people. Here's a nasty thing, though, because I'm not an optimist or a pessimist. I'm a realist. So here's my realistic bad advice for you. This is called ladder theory. There's a more sophisticated word for this called assortative mating. Dr. David Buss, the former Harvard professor and probably the smartest evolutionary psychologist in history, they call it assortative matching or assortative mating. But a simple way is ladder theory. Or we'll use stairs. Okay. Who here is single or been single recently? Here's a problem on Tinder or Match.com or any dating, and this applies to business. So let's say there's 10 steps here. This is a 1 in attractiveness. Okay, not just physical, but like overall personality, all this stuff. Okay, and that's a 10. Angelina Jolie, let's say, a 10, okay? Who did Angelina Jolie end up with? Who does she have kids with? Brad Pitt. What's Brad Pitt? They say he's probably the most charismatic charm. Anybody I've ever met, I've never met Brad Pitt, anybody I know says, you'll never forget meeting Brad Pitt. He's in like this incredible energy, charisma, good looking, tall, dark, handsome, well not dark, but tall, blonde, handsome, multi-millionaire status. So he's a 10. So that's a sort of matching. In all the matches of the 7 billion people in the world, it's not random. Angelina Jolie, you'll never see where Angelina Jolie's like, you know, my garbage man. I just go out, I do he comes by, I'm just like, something about, you know, this dude. And we just start talking, and now we got 4 kids together. It just doesn't happen. And there's an evolutionary and biological reason, because sometimes people don't like to hear this. That's why I'm going to pivot this away from romance. This gets very heated with people. Okay, here's what happens when you go on Tinder. Let's just say the average person in the world, by definition, is a 5. That's halfway between 1 and 10. Let's say a 5. Okay. Every 5, what does a 5 want? Let's say a 6 or a 7. In general, humans are very, most 5s won't go after a 10. You know what most supermodels say? They have a hard time finding a date. They go to parties, no one comes up to them. There's a reason. We want to conserve energy. Has any woman here ever seen a guy and be like, I ain't dating that guy, he's too pretty, and I want to be fighting off all the other women in the world? Anybody ever thought that? Okay, 1, very emphatically. So in general, humans conserve energy, so most 5s will not go after 10s in real life. But they will go after what? 6s and 7s. Now, you will see the problem in a second. What do 3s and 4s go after? 5. So if you're average looking, and especially on dating sites where it's just pictures like Tinder. Any guy ever struggled here on Tinder? Anybody? Yeah, no one's going to admit, but okay. 3s and 4s are going after 5s, but what are 5s going after? 6s and 7s. But what are 6s and 7s going after? 8s and 9s. The math doesn't add up. I'll read you one of the most powerful statements by one of the smartest people, I think maybe the smartest person to have lived in the last 1,000 years. His name's Will Durant. Let me read you this. Who here has read Will Durant? This is the most powerful series of books that ever changed my life. And in a good book, write this down. It's called The Story of Civilization. Is the long version, but you can read a shorter one. That's 10,000 pages. Okay, for those of you who don't like to read, you can read a shorter one called The Lessons of History. Very short, but you can read this every year for the rest of your life and get something new out of it. So here is what The Lessons of History says, and you'll understand how this pertains to everything we've talked about today. Let me search here. I like iBooks, by the way, even though I like physical books, because you can highlight and keep notes forever. It backs up to your cloud. Sometimes I'll lose my book, so a little practical tip of the day. When you get a good book, also that really speaks to you, buy the iBook version, and then make your notes on iBooks. I wrote this note, it's from 10 years ago. I can pull it up this fast. I don't have to run into my library. So here's what he says. So the first biological lesson of history, and this applies to business, is competition. Competition is not only the life of trade, it is the trade of life. Peaceful when food abounds, violent when the mouse outrun the food. Animals eat one another without qualm. Civilized men consume one another by the due process of law. Competition is the first biological lesson of life. What's going on here? The 5s are competing for the
6 and 7.
Do they have to compete for the 3s and 4s? So they don't care about them. Who here has ever had this problem? The people I'm really attracted to don't text me back. And all the chicks or the guys that I don't care about are all over like, hey, you want to go out? Who's ever had that problem? Ladder theory. Should have taught this in school. And it will never go away. Even in utopia. We're built that way. How does this pertain to business? Okay. What's the average income 5 of business owners in the United States? Who knows? No, that's the average business owner makes less than the average employee. You know that? Yeah, the average employee makes about 50, 52. The average single earning entrepreneur, meaning solo entrepreneur, makes about 43,000. Meaning most entrepreneurs should get a job at McDonald's and they'll be doing better with less risk. So let's just say, who here is making 40,000 in their business? Raise your hand. Don't be ashamed. No one's going to laugh here. Okay. 5. If you here, let's just stop at 9. If you go on the IRS website, if you make over $450,000 a year net taxable income, you're in the 99.999% of the US, which is of course of the world. Who here is netting 450,000 or more? Okay, so we'll call you the 9-ish thing here, okay? Who here is making a couple hundred grand? So you guys are here at 6 or 7. When it comes to networking, who does Elon Musk want to hang out with? What's Elon Musk? 10, right? He's 43, worth $20 billion. How to get, people always go, Tai, what's the secret to getting Elon Musk to hang out with you? And I'm like, well, you're asking me to violate the first biological law, which is Elon Musk doesn't want to hang out with you. So sometimes I give this message, and I'm like, good news is you just increase your network, and then your net worth goes up. And people are like, yes! And then I'm like, but the bad news is you won't be able to do it. Because it goes against fundamental principle of biology. If you're a 6, guess who's going to call you back a lot? 5s and 4s and 5s. Usually it's about 2 rungs below you. 3s and 2s will know you're out of their league. They won't contact you. You guys have to spend more time with 8, 9s, and 10s. It doesn't have to be 10s. And I'm going to talk about how to do. There is a bypass shortcut that I've figured out. There's a couple ways you can bypass it. So when I was a 5, I wasn't able to hang out with 10s when I was a 5, but I was able to find 8s and 9s. For those of you, a couple of you raise your hand, you're already a 9. Let's get you around some 10s. Again, by the way, don't get confused. I'm not saying who's a good person, okay? I don't mean, like, I'm just talking about pure, you guys join this boot camp to learn about making money, right? That's why you're here. We're not talking about kumbaya and social life. We're talking about business. The 10s don't want to hang out with the 9s that much. They want other 10s. I was in Omaha last Friday. Who went to Omaha with me? A few of you are in my, who's in my mastermind that's here? I did that mastermind in 2015 and I just opened it back up. So who's on the front row of the stadium we were in? Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, and Bill Gates. They're all best friends. $1 trillion in business net worth on the front row. Trillion. It's a sort of matching. It's ladder theory. Bill Gates, they tell the story. They're like, oh, we kind of bumped into each other and we got along. Guess who else is friends, really good friends with Warren Buffett? Who's king of music? One of the kings that we talked about earlier. Jay-Z. There's videos, Warren Buffett hanging out with Jay-Z. Who's king of basketball? LeBron James gets his financial advice directly from phone calls with Warren Buffett. That's why they say he's one of the best investors in the NBA. Do you see how this is working? So, after lunch, I want to talk to you about some hacks that you can do to bypass this. Because I can promise you this, and I want you to think about this as you network. I'm gonna step off the stage in a second, and they're going to do an announcement on how to get food and stuff. But I want you to just picture this in your mind's eye right now. The next 18 months, you are the personal right-hand man to, who's your favorite entrepreneur, business-wise? High level. No, don't put, no, higher than us. We're not 10s, forget us. Okay, Richard Branson, who else?
Mark Cuban.
Cute. No, I'm not allowed, I'm not a 10. 10s. Forbes list people, Forbes list. Not Forbes list. So, how about this? Who likes investing? Raise your hand. Okay, Warren Buffett now chills with you. Get to spend 8 hours a day with Warren Buffett for the next 18 months. What do you think will happen to your income? Guaranteed. Who would bet that you'll 10x your income? It might just be from him being like, call my buddy. He'll set you up. He runs a hedge fund. He'll invest in the next 300 real estate deals you do. Trust me, there's guys that make phone calls like that. I've had that before. Where a dude's like, all right, I'm going to throw you a bone, Tai. Bob, do the deal with Tai. Okay. Who here likes building serial businesses, like business after business after business? All right, next 18 months, you're chilling with Richard Branson. He's your daily mentor. He's started 300 businesses. Who here likes entertainment, likes being in front of the camera, likes video? Okay. Oprah Winfrey. Going to take you under, you know who Oprah, last person Oprah Winfrey said she's going to mentor? Guess who, what her name is? Ellen DeGeneres. How's she doing? And how's Ellen DeGeneres? You know, she was a stand-up comedian we used to go watch at the Laugh Factory. Can someone Google Ellen DeGeneres' net worth real fast? Do you think Ellen DeGeneres suddenly got more business savvy? No, Oprah told the networks, make her own show and I'll train her on how to make a good interview show. Her net worth was probably $100,000. Anybody find Ellen DeGeneres?
360 million.
60,000 to $360 million. When did Ellen start? She hadn't been on TV 10 years, has she?
2003.
The Ellen DeGeneres show? No, the show hasn't been since 2003. So we got to get that for you. I can't promise you guys Richard Branson or whatever. We got to get you at least 15 eights in your life. Or 15 up here. So, and the reason I picked 15, it's a good number. It's the president's cabinet number. He has 15 advisors. Consider yourself the president or the general of your own army. I get you 15 people. It might be 1 10, 2 or 3 9s, you know, and the rest 8s. Then you guys can mentor some people below you to help bring them up to pay it forward. You get that next 18 months, results will happen. Okay? Any questions real quick before I wrap up? Yes?
Could you put a dollar figure on, say, a 7 or an 8?
That's a good one. I like, you think like me. Put everything into numbers. Yes. I would say it's an exponential increase. So let's say a 7 will increase your income, your net worth by 100 grand. An 8 will increase it by $1 million. And an 8, let's say, is worth 100,000. A 9's worth $1 million. A 10 is worth 10 million bucks, for sure. So yeah, it's an exponential scale, and it's logarithmic scale backwards. Like a 2. Some of you, who here spends a lot of time with people way below them in terms of business skill? They actually pull you down. So they're like a 3 is worth a negative $1 million. Seriously. If you don't know that people suck your energy, you haven't been on planet Earth long enough. Question, yeah.
I think about the cabinet, I almost look at it as a chessboard. Each
Yep.
piece works differently and serves its own manner. How do you determine who fit each chess piece in your cabinet?
So he said cabinet sounds like a chessboard. It is a little bit. It'll never be as systematic as you hope. It will never be like, all right, I've identified Richard Branson, Ellen DeGeneres, and then 6 months from now they'll all be. There's a little bit of luck and a little bit of randomness. I can hope that in 18 months I think you guys can hit 15 people. Some of you will have no 10s or 9s there, but just 15 8s. If each worth $100,000 to your net worth, that's 1.5 million. Who here would be happy? Next 18 months, then you're self-made millionaire. There ain't that many millionaires in the world. I'll talk later about how some of you have too big of goals. Trust me, you don't need to make even 10 million bucks a year. I've tested the upper and lower bounds of income. I lived with the Amish for 2.5 years with no electricity, no car, no toilet. So I've been on that side. I did that for 4 years with Joel Salatin. Outhouse, no electricity, drinking water off a mountain spring. And I've also tested upper bounds, not as high as, let's say, Elon Musk, but I live in Beverly Hills. This is a 17,000 square foot house. I've done this high end. Most of you, a lot of you only need to make $1 million bucks a year and net 30%. 300,000 is a lot of money. You net, and the next group of you should make 3 million gross, net 1 million. You know how much you can do with 80,000 a month free? If you have half a brain, you can do a lot. Remember, money is exponential, meaning if you net $1 million, for example, you can go to banks and borrow, $3 to $5 million on real estate deals or other deals. So it's an exponential. And some of you should try to hit 10 million and net 3 million. Most people don't need to make more than that. There's no point. That's another thing. I do not agree with a lot of the things that people teach in business. And I can prove, I'll tell you why. Your health will degrade after a certain level. Okay? And it is a fool's game that nobody can logically respond to me why you would want. I mean, Steve Jobs said, I don't want to be the richest man in the graveyard, but he was. Why would you want to be Steve Jobs? People idolize Steve Jobs. I'm like, well, maybe it was lucky that he got cancer, but he stressed himself out for a decade. That does not help with your health. I would not want to be Steve Jobs. To me, he lost, even though he died one of the richest. What's the point? So I think that some of you need to dial down your goals and just hit them. The best basketball coach that Dean Smith, Coach Michael Jordan, UNC coach, he said, I was never a fan of big goals. He's like, just hit the damn goals you make. You know how people say, shoot for the stars, and even if you only get halfway, you get to the moon? Bullshit. Shoot for the stars, you don't get off the planet Earth because you get overwhelmed. No, hit the moon, and you've gone far. How many people gone to the moon? Almost nobody. Who here is netting $1 million a year on your tax return? Net. There you go. Your life will change if who here is netting $3 million? Warren Buffett tries to take the minimum amount of income. He says, all my net worth is pieces of paper that I can't do anything. He's like, there's nothing else I can get. I can't increase my happiness. It's funny. You know what his minimum payout is to himself? He has to, by law. He has to pay himself $72 million a year. He told his accountant, give me the least possible. They're like, this is the least we can spin off, $72 million. May each of you have that problem. You go to your accountant and you're like, I want less money. All right, you can only have $6 million a month. But the point is, he doesn't even make that much. You would think that Warren Buffett would make, you can't spend after a certain amount. More money, more problems, all those things. You become a bigger target for lawsuits. Like my net worth online says like 5 million, and people are like, you should get them to fix it. I'm like, no, I want them to change it to 1 million or 100,000. Why do you want people to think you have a high net worth? Mark Cuban was over here, we talked for 8 hours. He told me a lot of confidential stuff. One of the things he told me, you know what happened to Mark Cuban? Huge. He spent 2 or 3 years of his life with the SEC. Going through, and he turned out to be 100% innocent. They came after him because he had a lot of money. It's not advantageous to have you definitely get, who knows what diminishing returns mean? Hit a goal in the next 18 months and hit it 100%. Who here is not at 6 figures? Raise your hand. Hit 6 figures in 18 months. That's it. That's good. Forget everybody telling you, oh, who here is hitting who's at 7 figures? Low 7 figures, millionaire. Hit 3 million. Who here is doing more than 3 million? Hit 10. That's it. After that, it's diminishing returns. If I had to optimize my life right now, I would go, even on the high end, I wouldn't want to make more than $1 million a month in my own venture, because then you have no time to work out. You get people suing you. I had a maid that I hired here for 1 day. She wasn't good. We hired her. She walks out. A week later, we get a lawsuit letter. She didn't sue me. She sued our health insurance. She said she slipped on a banana peel. I was like, is your lawyer Bugs Bunny? Like, you slipped up. But that's what happens. People are like, money? Ding. I have one of the top lawyers in the world. He told me, Tai, 100% of the high net worth men in Los Angeles have pending lawsuits against them by somebody. Because I was asking him, I was like, I heard about this football player, he got it. Anyway, this girl was caught extorting him for $3 million, saying it was his baby, but it wasn't his baby. So I was like, oh, what do you think about this? He goes, I want you to know 100% of high net worth men in Hollywood have a pending lawsuit, some bullshit like that going. I don't know about the women. Oh, last story. I said, you sure? He goes, yeah, I got this rich client. I can't say many details. You might figure out who this guy is. He goes, his girlfriend comes to him and says she's pregnant. And he's like, no, it's not mine. She goes, yes, it is. They break up over it, but she continues a lawsuit. This guy's uber rich. I got a couple of billionaires that live on this street. And the guy's worth $1 billion or whatever. she goes, yep, it's your kid, and I got DNA proof. So the thing goes to the next level before court. DNA. Her lawyer submits to this guy DNA proof. This is your child. So I asked my lawyer, what the hell did you do? How do you win that? He goes, this guy's been infertile for 20 years. He said, we knew that. He said, 0 sperm count. He has a condition. He's like 75. 0 sperm count since he's 50. What the woman did, she sweet-talked he had a real daughter, the rich guy, from years ago, her to come to dinner. When the lady went to the bathroom, she swabbed off her DNA, the daughter's DNA, off the cup, submitted it, and that's how she was trying to say. And so she eventually got caught and got in a lot of trouble. Now, I'm not saying that this is women accused false. It's both ways. There's a lot of shady people about it. I'm saying, if he was only, his net worth was $10 million, she wouldn't have come after him. And I had one of the richest men in the world over here at my house 2 years ago, and I had a chef and stuff, and he goes, Tai, you're spending way too much money. You ever heard people just say, just grind and take all that money and reinvest it into business and you could have made more money? And I'll never forget, I was joking because this was like a high status guy. He goes, yeah, but I'm way happier than you. And I'll never forget his face. He just like sunk and he was like, he like broke down. I was like, uh-oh. He's like, I hate my life. So trust me, when you get in the inner circle of what's going on, almost all billionaires that I know have crappy lives. Almost every one of them. Even Elon Musk just published a huge article, how lonely he is. Major thing dealing with loneliness. Hit your goal. In the next 18 months, I promised you guys, you came in this program, when I come back later, we're going to write down the real goals that you can get results. And I'm not going to allow anybody, there is such a thing as greed. Some of you are too greedy. Pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. If you in my mastermind or my boot camp, I don't want anyone here slaughtered. Okay? One last question, and we'll wrap up here. Maya's going to throw something at me. You guys okay with me being long-winded? I don't have to be. Yes. They can just hand the mic to you. I don't have to pick. Whoever they give the mic to, I don't want that responsibility.
How do you know who is an 8 or 9? You don't wear your income
If you don't know if they're an
sleeve.
8 or 9, 8 or 9. You know? It's like this. Who here thinks Chuck is tall? Look over there. Does anybody need to know his exact measurements? How tall are you, Chuck? 6'7". Did anybody look over there and be like, I need to measure that guy? You'll know. I can tell when I meet a business partner. It takes me like 5 minutes to know. I'll talk about something, but you know what? I'm going to say this. If you meet somebody who says they're rich and they have no extravagant part of their life, they're lying to you. And now that goes, you're going to hear a lot of stuff that go, hell no, the average millionaire in America drives a pickup truck. There's something extravagant. If you don't find anything extravagant in our life, I call bullshit. I'll be right 99 out of 100 times. Even Warren Buffett, you know he has the same house that he bought in 1958? And everybody talks about that? But he also owns a fleet of private jets. Okay? So there's something extravagant in his life. I've never met a baller who doesn't have something. When Mark Cuban came here, he came in a rental, like Taurus, Ford Taurus car. So I'm like, oh, this guy's really humble and down to earth. We play basketball, blah, 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 blah. At the end, we started talking about books. And I was like, do you read a lot? He's like, 2 hours a day. And he goes, you know why I have my Bombardier jet at LAX right now with the engine still on with my own pilot? Because I can go there and read right now. And I was like, that's extravagant. And he owns a basketball team. So I meet entrepreneurs. They're like, I know an entrepreneur. He has no money. I mean, he has so much money, and he lives in a teeny apartment, and he drives a bicycle, and I'm like, the money's in trust from dad. So his net worth is $100 million, but he can only access. I had a girl here the other day, a friend of mine from Europe. She's the youngest billionaire in the world. But I had to buy her a ticket here because her money's in trust from her dad. The money story, always you will see something. Hopefully you don't follow somebody that everything is extravagant. Like for me, I wear no jewelry. I never cared about jewelry. I like big houses and I like fast cars. But when I lived at the Amish, I liked fast horses. It's not, I just like, my mom, my 100-year-old my grandma's 100. You guys seen her on my Snapchat? I was at the beach the other day and I was like, what was I like when I was 2? She's like, Tai, I used to go in the garage steal our keys and try to open all the cars and go vroom, 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 vroom. So that's an extra, and I like big houses because they have purposes. This house has a purpose. I can play basketball, gym, you guys can come here. So look for people who have one extravagant thing. I know Grant Cardone has money because he just bought with cash a new G6. You don't buy a G6 cash. He might have bought a used one, but that's $20 to $60 million car. Okay? Does that make sense? So look, I know this goes against what people say. I'm just giving you the real shit. There's so much BS in business now. People like to do trite, weird, cliche sayings. Oh, work hard. I'm just like, it doesn't work. I already tried it. I could save you guys a lot of time. I've tried everything. Tried everything. Okay? So, Anton's going to come on, and Terry's going to come on. Thank you. And, yeah, you guys don't have to clap. Let me grab my phone. And then who's up? Oh, you're going to announce who's up. And I'm going to come back and I'll answer everybody's questions. We will get to some what stuff. I got this point down, and I'm going to give you some practical stuff, and I'll take a lot of questions and answers. Okay?
All right, guys, let's give it up for Tai.